Hey, so I'm going to start with Cody. Um, let's take a look. So here's the logo, and I see you've got the two guns for the L's, which I think is a good idea. It reminds me a little bit of the Sopranos logo, which had a similar idea, but this is good. What I would say is that for a logo design, you need to spend more time and effort on the drawing. In particular, the lettering should look like the actual lettering's going to look like, and I don't. This looks very kind of hand scrawled, rather than kind of finely tuned in, lettering of what you want the font to look like. For example, it's probably not going to be that thin, um, and so forth. So yeah, just really putting more time into that drawing would be good. Um, Here's the first storyboard examples. The guns and bullets falling, that looks good. Here it says the gun and bullets moving around in the camera shot. You'll want to be more specific, like moving around how. Are they spinning? Are they moving from left to right? You can draw arrows to indicate what they might be doing. Um, the logo shows up. And then again, with the thing in the logo and the title, don't just write it, draw it the way it should look and the way it will look, and think about sort of centering it better. I'm imagining it'll be centered here. Gunsmoke comes in from the four corners. That's a good idea. Um, yeah, Gunslinger Films Presents shows up, and we have another gun here. I'm not sure if these enter or just show up. Be worth deciding that one way or the other. And then the title leaves in a puff of smoke. I guess that means that the smoke covers up the title, I'm guessing. Okay. Next one. You've got it's full of smoke, and the logo fades in. Um, from the smoke, which I'm guessing means the smoke clears. And logo comes in from the top, and there's a gunshot sound. Bullets fly in from the right, and the logo shows. Bullets fly in from everywhere. Each one collides and explodes. Cloud of smoke covers the scene. So there's a lot going on. I think this one might be hard because if the bullets moving very fast and they're very small, they might just be a little hard to see. So, I mean, it could still work, but either the bullets would have to move relatively slowly or they'd have to be bigger than normal for that to work well. Um, and finally, this one. Gun slides in from left, bullet shoots into a logo. 2. Gun slides in from the right, and bullet shoots into the title. Guns show up from all angles, and the camera shoot bullets. And then bullets collide and blow a big cloud of smoke, and then bullets fly in, burst into name. So I think, yeah, this suffers from the same kind of being able to see fast moving small bullets and really have them look like much. So, you know, it's all doable, but I think that's a little harder. Let's go back to that first one. Did I look at that in the right order? You know what? I did not look at that in the right order that first time. So let's go over this again. Guns and bullets falling. Logo shows up. Gunslinger Film presents. These are moving around, and again we have to define that in the clear. So obviously that makes more sense now. Sorry, I read it wrong the first time. Um, and Yeah, I mean, I think this one can work. I mean, I imagine sort of these guns and bullets falling kind of like they would in a James Bond movie, the kind of slow motion falling thing, and the smoke billowing in. So, and this one doesn't depend on bullets flying at full speed, which I think would be difficult. So, of the three, this one seems the most promising. So, in summary, you fulfilled the assignment. You have some good ideas. I think you just need to spend more time kind of rendering more detailed drawings to kind of really think through what the logo and what the title are going to look like on the screen. Okay, next up we have Chris. Let's take a look at this first one. So letters jump from cloud to cloud, and the cloud moves up as the letters fall on cloud below. Worlds land on cloud in a poof. Okay, I think it's good. I think I like the above the clouds name, and I like it kind of landing on the cloud. I actually think you can do less. I think that you don't need as much jumping around. You might just simply, you know, honestly, you could probably make this last two be the whole thing. Maybe like a cloud moves up and reveals the letter, and then they land on the cloud in a poof. Like, if that was done really nicely, that would be sufficient, and all the jumping in the round, I think, doesn't necessarily add much. So, and you could just focus on making that really good quality rather than having to do the rest of the stuff. Let's look at the three ideas here. So starts on black, fades up to the Desperado, zooms in all the way to the O of Desperado. Gun goes off, shoots the letter O, and it spins and slows to a stop and shows the silhouette of the character holding a smoking gun. Yeah, that's. I think that's doable and works well. Kind of James Bond-ish. Also, I know that's the second time I've mentioned that in this video. Um, but yeah, and I like how this remains in the O and the smoke leaves the O. That's a nice touch. So yeah, that one is definitely doable. Tumbleweed rolling by and essentially revealing the letters. I think, yeah, I mean, there's this opportunity to have the kind of, shadows under each of the letters. I like that kind of detail. Um, it'd be interesting to give these letters a sort of tactile like texture, perhaps like a aged wooden fence or something like you would maybe expect to find in a desert in a western kind of thing. Not that you have to do that, but it would kind of make them physically put in that kind of place. So something to play with. The thing about tumbleweed is, in After Effects, you can certainly get a picture of tumbleweed and certainly make it roll, but it's challenging to make it feel kind of real. That stuff in After Effects tend to look pretty two-dimensional, so you don't get a sense of the sphere of tumbleweed. So that's, I think, the challenge with making this look nice. But all that said, that's it's a good idea and it's doable. Um, and line moves in, so the actual line itself, and then the target starts to slide in, and I guess all these targets come in, and then a gun sound goes off and the targets fall, and then the movie title slides into a stop. I mean, I guess I like the idea. I would consider something where, you know, multiple gunshots because there's multiple targets. So what I imagine is something like, a gunshot for each target, and then, maybe the targets fall, and then each letter pops back up. So rather than having some slide in, or here's another one, maybe each target is hit and it spins, and when it stops spinning, then it reveals the letter that was, let's say, on the other side of the target. Um, and it spins, sort of horizontally, like as if you hit one side of it and it caused it to spin around the vertical axis. So, just some other ideas you might want to consider. But the thing is that all three of these ideas are doable and possible. So it's really up to you. I think any of them could work. And yeah, you've done a nice job. It's clearly you've spent some time thinking about this and some time into the drawing. So good job on this. Next we have Jocelyn. So first thing, Jocelyn, in the future, if you could please, one thing, make sure your images are oriented vertically. You can bring them into Photoshop to do that and do rotate canvas, edit image, rotate canvas, I think it is. I think even, like a preview program on Windows will give you the option to rotate it and then save it as well. The other thing is the image are kind of low res, so it would be better to scan them with a scanner. Um, but if you're going to photograph them, just make sure you get them in at a higher resolution because they've come in a little blurry. Um, but they are visible. So, sequence for the dock. So, drop down fangs, drip blood, night, dead of night productions, slide in words, black background, twirl in black line, slide in letters. It says the dock. Um, yeah, so that's okay. I think I'm concerned, like, about these kind of spiral letters. You'll find that that's um, not often used just because it's hard to read, really, putting letters in a spiral. So I tend to discourage that. And you might, if you can look around, you probably have trouble finding things that at least that extreme of a spiral where titles have been done that before. Because of that reason, it's just hard to read like that. And I guess these are kind of disembodied teeth that are floating. So I think Dead of Night Productions can work. But I think the dock, I might try something else for that. Um, and we have, okay, so we're repeating that again. And then bounce in title and drip in different kinds of pills. And yeah, I think that one's stronger, partly because we're avoiding the spiral thing like I talked to, but I also think the pills, you know, are obviously a reference to the doc as in the doctor, and so it has more of a reason. Whereas the spiral didn't seem to have kind of a justification. The pills are justified by the whole idea of the doc, so I think that's better uh, conceptually. Whether the doc doesn't necessarily need to bounce in, like that could either appear or you could have the pills fall first and then we see the letters be revealed behind it until the pills finish falling. That would be another choice using the same pieces. But again, if you're bouncing in the letters, why are we bouncing the letters? Is there something bouncy about the doc in the film? I think it's good to have a justification for these things, like how it sort of fits into the story. Again, the opener, and now zoom into operating table, fade in the, and drop in doc letters one at a time. Yeah, and then that's okay. You've got the operating table element. But again, do we sort of why drop them in one at a time? Does it somehow relate? And yeah, you can certainly just animate for the sake of animation, but it's always nice if it somehow feels like it's somehow fitting into the story. So, and is that okay? One more. And yeah, we have the dead of night thing. Um, oh, okay. This is just like a general one with a different ideas. It looks like. Okay. Yeah, so for me, I think the one that has the most potential is the one with the pills. You have the opportunity to have the pills kind of falling slowly through the frame, and either, like you had it before, you can have them drop in and then do the pills, or maybe start with the pills and then, um, have them reveal the letters. So yeah, there's some potential for that one. Okay. Next we have Angela, flying frog Productions. Floating frog, sorry, not flying. Yeah, that looks really nice. I think it's kind of a funny idea, funny idea. I haven't seen that before. I really like how the frog appears sort of stuck in the O. Um, I would consider making the O a little bit bigger and more obvious, so maybe we can see the top of it there a little bit more. Um, Maybe just because if you look at the, maybe like give it a consistent width as the rest of them, so at least seeing more of the bottom. And I can understand his head would be blocking some of the top, but maybe we can see it peeking up a little bit more. But yeah, kind of match the thickness of the other letters. Also, you could consider having different line widths for the outline of the frog. So whereas the outline might look good on, for example, the larger parts like the face, on the fingers it looks a little thick, and see if you like how it looks thinner. But yeah, it's a fun title. It's memorable. Good stuff. So then we've got these storyboards. Let's see. Um, Balloon goes up. We zoom out. Frog ribbits as he floats out. Zoom out further to show the name. Fade in. Yeah, fade in name, and then frog floats up. Name floats up afterwards. Personally, I think you could stop here and just have him like ribbit again. You know, it could be kind of funny if he's sort of that kind of he's like surrendered. He's sort of passive about having gotten caught in the O, um, and we don't quite establish how he gets stuck in the O. Do we see him slide up through it, or does that happen off screen? I'm not entirely sure, but um, it's something to think about. So yeah, that's a good kind of thoughtful one. Let's take a look here. 2 seeds are planted, 2 trees sprout, trees twist as they grow, branches grow to spell twisted trees. Oh, I see. There, it's a little small. But yeah, I think that's for what technology we're using with After Effects. That would be fairly complex to animate. There's not any sort of, the After Effects lends itself towards these sort of more 2D animations where you're taking sort of drawings and moving them around, rather than something like that would probably be have to hand drawn frame by frame if you're going 2D. So I would say that while it's a cool idea, it's not a great fit for this assignment. And the other thing is I would want the text to stand out more, maybe somehow being bigger or more just clearer and easier to read. Was that the top 2? Yes. Okay. Alright. 2 gunshots sound off, 2 bullets crossed, a small cloud slash explosion appears as they cross. Cloud gets bigger, title appears in cloud, title fades as smoke. I think this one is, again, I'm concerned about bullets flying at full speed, so a small thing on the screen moving very fast is just going to be hard to see very much, so don't necessarily encourage that. Certainly you can have the sound and the smoke and the title appear, that all works, but I always find this to be a bit tricky because, I mean, in reality, of course, we don't see bullets in the air at all. They just move simply too fast for the eye to see whatsoever. So then you're left with, okay, well, how do we want to deal with them? Well, either we move them slow or make them big or just show some kind of streak. And those are all possible. You could just have a quick streak move across the screen, but I just tend to not be that much in favor of stuff that requires seeing a fast moving bullet. Um, and where are we? Back up here. Okay, 2 stylized silhouette of Cowboy. Show stylized silhouette of Cowboy. Change to stylized silhouette of Sheriff. Show both silhouettes together. Crossfire is then stamped on. Yeah, I mean, that can work. I think it's simple, clear. You can certainly have silhouettes moving in. The stamp thing is it's kind of a good choice. Silhouette of town. Pan right to show more of town. Bullets cross the screen. Again, my whole thing about the bullets. And title appears as bullets cross to fade the film. I mean, the other thing to do, again, if you're have my share my concern about showing bullets well, is to have like two guns kind of point at angles crossing each other and then fire, and maybe you see the streak of the bullet or at least the flash of the flare from the gun to indicate direction. Show some smoke. So that could be another similar way to do that. So I think that you know. Um, so these are logo ones and these are title ones. I think that any of them are kind of doable. I think if you're doing bullets, maybe they're just kind of a streak, like a kind of a. You could sort of look at how video games show them sometimes. They're just like these sort of streaks of light. Um, and yeah, I mean, any of these are pretty doable. I guess take your pick. I think that yeah, I mean, you will be working in this kind of old west town, so I think that kind of sort of lends itself to the town thing. And maybe if you use my gun idea or something similar for the Crossfire. I like the name Crossfire. That's a good title. So, yeah, I guess it's take your pick. I think they're good ideas, and it's clear you spent some time on this. Particularly like the floating frog thing. I think obviously you put a lot of time and effort into it, and it looks good. So, yeah, good work on this. Okay, we've got Vanessa next. First thing I'd say, Vanessa, is that these are a bit light, and so in future, if you're getting something kind of low contrast like this, you could take it into Photoshop and adjust the levels, or try adjusting the contrast to see if you can get the blacks to show up a little bit better. But it is legible. It would just be helpful if the lines were darker. So we start with a black screen. Spotlight moves to left, revealing background. Spotlight finds the panda's face and stops. Spotlight widens to reveal all screen. Title appears on right, zooming in from background, fades in and moves with the wind towards the right. So it looks like you have some leaves blowing in the wind. So I think this looks great. I mean, it's really nice. You've got the bamboo theme with the panda. It's a cute drawing, and it's clear you've put some time and effort. This works very well as is. I don't know that I would change anything. You could, rather than the only idea I have is that rather than fades in and moves with the wind to the right. So I'm not sure what's moving with the wind to the right, but I'm imagining like the camera moving to the right and then revealing the presents with the. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but either way, yeah, that looks good. That's a good idea, good drawings. Clear you put some time and effort into that. Do we have any more of these things on top? Next one here. Um, Bamboo leaves. Camera moves down. Leaves fall from tree. Leaves continue to fall, moving from side to side. I guess floating down. Leaves land on Panda's nose, and camera zooms out, revealing Panda. And we have Panda Production. Again, yeah, I really good just as is. I don't know that I would change anything. I think either of those would make for very nice things. It's clear, again, you've put some time into the drawings and they look good. So I'm sure, in the final version they'll be even better. Camera moves to the right. Camera continues to move to the right. Bubbles rise from the right corner. Camera stops. Camera goes down. Bubbles come from Panda's mouth. Logo titles appear. Yeah, it's okay. I think you kind of nailed it with either the first one or the second one, and I feel like the bubbles are less applicable than the other elements, like the bamboo and the leaves. So I would recommend sticking with your first or second one. And then here's the first title. And black and white stripes move across the screen. And when I first saw this, I thought maybe they were train tracks, which I thought sort of applied well to the old West town theme. So I'm not sure if that's the intention or not, or if they're just black and white stripes. Um, Shoe prints appear on the strip, lines in shape of crown flashing. So I think that's this. And then these are moving. Both strips spins together, and then title screen with shoe prints. So I'm not really getting it. It feels a little abstract with the crown, and I think whatever that is, a chest or something, and the footprints, and I guess it's a little bit abstract for me. So it could work, but I'm not really getting it. Um, this one, prison cell, lights blackout, rope hanging from the window. Zoom in on the window towards the street. Title and cuffs appear, and the cuffs are like swinging side to side. So yeah, this one I think has some good potential. It tells a little story all in and of itself. One thing you could do is have like some sheets and covers in the first shot, and then have them removed in the second shot, and have this be like tied together sheets rather than a rope. But a rope works fine too. I thought this animation by with your name. I mean, I think it's kind of a cool idea, but we would need to be pretty zoomed in to really read that well. So anyway, something to consider. It might read okay, but here especially it looks quite small on the screen, so I'd be concerned that that would be hard to read. Um, and then for the cuffs, I like your choice of font, and it's clear you put some time into uh, simulating that. I think that just do a little bit of research for what handcuffs looked like in the Old West, because those remind me of sort of a more modern handcuff, but we're looking for, whatever it is, 1880s or whatever we're saying the Old West was. Um, so look up kind of older cuffs, and it's the idea is great. I think just look up the older cuffs, and I like that this one's open again, implying the escape, just like you've done here. So yeah, I feel like this has some good potential, and it almost tells a little story just in the title, which is cool. So yeah, good work all around on that. Okay, next up, Adni. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You can let me know. Um, so the last Cowboy opening sequence, we have 2 seconds of black. The sun rises, and as the sun rises up, a lightning flash from the mountain appears with the Cowboy studio, and then everything else disappears. And so you have the Cowboy studio here showing up from a lightning flash, and then with just the sun in the frame and the text presents fades in, then the screen shakes with another lightning flash, and as the sun and the mountain rise up, another text fades in, which is a film by Honey J, and you see a cowboy from behind, and then the last cowboy lightning flash. So basically, it's a series of lightning flash transitions. Um, One thing to think about is that I associate lightning with stormy clouds, but it looks like a fairly, not entirely cloudless, but not storm cloud evening, with the sun kind of setting and just a few kind of cirrus clouds there. So what I would suggest is if you're going to have all that lightning, it might look better justified with kind of big billowing storm clouds in the sky. And you could still have like the sunset kind of at the horizon, sort of below a layer of clouds. But anyway, it's just something to think about. I kind of like the idea of sort of silhouetted rocky hillsides with silhouetted from the setting sun. I think lightning flashes can work for transitions. The thing to work on here would be the logos themselves, and right now it's just written text, but is that text stylized in any way, and if so, how? And in looking at this, you really have this kind of pinned to the corner. In fact, it's going right off the screen here. So I think the title should be a little larger and more prominent in the frame. And at least this one, the Cowboy Studios one, is looking pretty small. Um, the other thing is, you do only have one idea, and it'd be better if you had a few choices to go from. So you might want to like keep coming up with ideas, but yeah, think about storm clouds. Think about having some other ideas, and how does the text look? How is it stylized? What's sort of unique or about it, or what? How does it best serve the story? Um, and yeah, keep working. But you've got something you can work with here. But I think you could have done a little bit more, both with the style of the logo, and by having more ideas. Next we have Tegan. Um, so let me full screen. Tegan, first thing I'd say, it's a little dark. It'd be better if you can use a scanner, or just make sure your pages are brightly and evenly lit when you photograph them. Um, so we've got black screen, animated bubbles fill up the letters in bright pink to, looks like, fill the word. And we have fizzing sound effects settle. So it looks like we're only seeing the bubbles inside the letters. Um, and yeah, I guess for that, you'll want to, make them as thick as you can, just to see as much as possible through them. I'm just noticing, I think you have I like the kind of play on the name physicist with fizz and all that. It's clever, but I think you've got an extra eye here that you don't want. I think so. I think this style, this very angular style, is good, but just make them as thick as you can. So for letters that we want to see things through, the thicker, the better. Um, so here, tapping noise as Pug comes on the screen. Pugs walks over to left and pauses center screen. Dog in one motion pivots, barks, and sits down, facing camera, and camera quick zooms out to show name Pirate Pug. So yeah, this is a fun one, but I think that just the kind of reality of animating a character for this assignment is going to be pretty challenging. So I tend to recommend away from that. So, I mean, unless you can like find a video of a pug doing what you want to do on the green screen, which is, it's got the pirate thing. So I would just say, if you really like the idea of pirate pug, you could do something with it. But I think that the whole walking and turning and barking is just a bit too challenging for this assignment. So I would probably stay away from that one. Glass gets pushed onto screen, liquid moving inside of it, sits centered. Tablet gets dropped in the container. Tablet hits the liquid, and the water ripples and splashes up. The water settles, and it's still. Quiet and slow rumbles as it starts to rise. Water fizzes up, overflows beaker, and water drips down onto logo, revealing it. Yeah, I think it's good. I just think I like the kind of simplicity and cleanness of the first kind of fizzing up one. I thought that worked well and sort of told essentially the same story of something fizzing up without kind of all the complicated stuff with the beaker, which I think is a little bit more drawn out than you need for a logo. So while it's a good idea, I thought I personally like the first one better. A bullet falls off screen, continues to fall, smoking, hits invisible surface bouncers, bullet spins, and text appear. Shoot first. Revolver barrel rolls on screen. As it rolls, letters appear. High noon. So I guess I'm wondering, for this one, is shoot first. It seems like high noon's the title, but then we also have shoot first, so I would have thought that was the title, and so it's not entirely clear to me. So I think, you could have like maybe a film by taken to clear from the bullet, and then the name be revealed by the revolver barrel. I guess that's not. The barrel is the two part. What is that called? A chamber or something like that? Anyways, doesn't matter. I get what you're saying. So yeah, I like the reveal thing. I think that's good, and this could be good. It's just I was just a little confused about which of these two would be the title of the actual film. Um, got one more down here. Say bar doors swinging, doors swinging open, came out swinging. Doors continue swinging back and forth. Yeah, I think you'll want to think about a little bit more background or what you're going to do with the background. Is it just sort of disembodied bar doors hanging in space, or do we see the sort of bar scene around them? So you'll want to make a decision there. I think the play on words with the door swinging is a good idea. And yeah, you could definitely do the door swinging in After Effects. So I think that one works. I think the previous one with with the chamber rolling and revealing the letters is just seems a little more fleshed out and appealing. But either one of these are doable. So you can take your pick. So yeah, all around it's good work. Okay, we've got Megan next. So Scully Production. So it's a dinosaur with a skull face. Yeah, I think it's all right. I think you could spend a little more time, just kind of cleaning up the text. Really figuring out how that's going to look. You'll want to spend more time on things like fleshing out the arm and fingers to make some of this look nicer. So dinosaur slides in from top, bouncing slightly when it lands. Scully and Productions fade in. The dinosaur opens its mouth. The dinosaur's jaw falls off. The dinosaur looks down and image fades to black. The word presents fades in and out. Short film by Megan Christie. Title shoots in and then fades out. So, yeah, bouncing when it lands. Scully and Productions fade in. I think this is funny about the jaw falling. I think that you mentioned the dinosaur looks down, but he doesn't have eyeballs, so I guess maybe he just points his head down and looks down with his head. You'll want to kind of think through, what does your text look like more, and flesh that out a little bit, and then again, you have this, bullet shooting in. So is it shooting in sort of slow motion, like it kind of reveals the letter, or I'm not exactly sure what you mean by title shoots in and then fades out. Is it that it just moves in quickly from the right side and moves left and then stops, or I'm not sure. Oh, okay. So is this slides into frame? Scully slides in, Production slides in, skull falls off. So similar, they just enter the screen in a different way. That seems maybe a little more interesting than the original one. Presents, short film, and then the title just fades in. Okay. Yeah, you might want to do something a little more creative with the title. Part of the logo fades in. There's no head on the body, and where Scully should be, it says question mark. Scully comes in fast and knocks the question marks away. Skull falls into place. The logo stays for a few moments. The rest of the logo fades away, leaving the skull. The skull falls to the ground. bounces a little before stopping, fades away. The word presents fades in, then out. Short film by Megan Christie. Screen fades into image, then words show and down shoot in from different sides. Can't quite tell what the background image is in this one. So, yeah, I think the question mark thing is just, I don't know, it's a little complex. I would probably, and the way it doesn't start with a head, it will look kind of strange there. So I think one of your first two ideas for the Scully Productions thing was better than this one. Probably the second would be my favorite. And I think this is sort of overly complex. There's a bit too much going on with the logo on that one. Um, and I think that the title you could, I mean, if nothing else, spend more time on the design of it. Like, what does it look like? What is it supposed to evoke? How are you setting the scene for the story with the kind of style and look of it? Because right now it's just sort of very quickly hand scroll lettering, and I get that it flies in, but I can't really tell what the background is, and how does them flying in, does that help tell the story or set the scene? Just think about some of those things. So I think you could do more. I think the thing that your title here deserve more time and effort than they've gotten, and I can see you're into your Scully character, and so I'm sure you can make that work. Although I think you'll want to do a little bit more carefully rendered drawing than this one, but I understand that's kind of just a rough sketch for the purposes of this assignment. But for the final one that you'll have in your animated logo, you'll want to just have more carefully drawn and rendered. Okay, next we have Ray. Um, so season films, pretty straightforward. Yeah, I think that looks good. You could just clean it up a little bit. Um, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of really scripty stuff for on-screen titles, but maybe you can sort of tone down some of the curlicues a little bit, and I feel like that S sort of has some style without kind of overdoing it, where the E and the A maybe are overdoing it a bit. Um, so fade in from black, and we've got winter, spring, summer, fall season films, and I think that's where you've described at the bottom here snapshot effect. So when the lens closes and opens again, the next slide, it's like slides. It's like we're seeing like a sort of like a slideshow or a series of photographs or something. So although I'm not really seeing too much on, I mean, I guess you've got snowflakes. I don't know. I mean, I guess what I would expect, if that's the silhouette of a tree, I think sort of the obvious thing would be that you would just see the branches here without any leaves on it. And then in spring, you would just see kind of budding leaves and flowers. And then summer, you would see the full leaves. And then fall, you would see, partial leaves, like they're starting to fall off. So it was weird for me to have the full, if that's what I'm looking at this correctly, kind of the fully thickly covered tree in all the different seasons, when that would be kind of the most obviously iconic thing to change for each one. Okay. Got looks like a cloud. I think we're seeing a drop approach us from below, maybe? The drop hits the ground. Plant comes up, season films. I think that's alright. I think the catch is that you'd want to see something that looks kind of like a time lapse of a seed kind of budding and growing into a plant where that animation is going to be a bit too complex for this assignment. Also, I just feel like this text is kind of small and, it doesn't kind of, you want something a little bit stronger, for the name. So um, it could be that you have it pop up so quickly that, we don't even notice it doesn't like beautifully grow and unfold. So it is possible, but I think if you are going to use this, do something about the title where maybe it starts out smaller and then grows and kind of fills the frame more, or something where it's just clearer and larger. Winter snowball flies through, and then and sort of like spring it starts to melt, and summer it breaks up into pieces, and then fall there's just a little piece left, and it tumbles and stops and melts there. Yeah, I guess again, I mean, snowball is so symbolic of winter. It's odd to have that in the other seasons, and you kind of haven't backed it up that much with the background. So I think that for this to work, it would be more the background that actually told the story than what's happening to the snowball. So I think, you'd really have to flesh out kind of this gradually changing background. So, um, all the season films. So we have. So you don't really have a title of the movie. It's really just the logo for the kind of company. So you'll want to also think of a title. So there's some decent drawings here. I think, yeah, simplify the text here. There's just a few issues with all of these. So give it some thought. I think. I don't know. I find myself between these first two. I guess in this first one, mostly you just need to address what's going on with the tree, and I think that can work. And this one, I think the challenge is the plant sprouting to look nice, and the title looking kind of clear from that. So, and then you need a title for your film as well, and you'll kind of have to think about that and give that some design. Okay, next we have Karen. Okay, Fallen Star Production, Stars in Sky. Stars start flickering and moves a little left and right. Star starts falling. Star still falling and flickering. Lands, and then it kind of closes in on Fallen Star Productions, sort of boxes it. Yeah, I think that's nice. I think it will look good if these stars. I mean, you kind of have two choices. You've done like the extremely stylized sort of hand scrawled star, but I think the question becomes, do you go for a realistic looking starry sky and we see those sort of fall, or do you do a very stylized looking star? And I'm guessing from this it's stylized, but I don't know, I'm kind of curious where you're going to find that balance. I think it will be impressive if we see a very kind of somewhat realistic looking starry sky, and when they start flickering and falling it might look more impressive. But either way, that could work. And I like how this kind of boxes in at the end conceptually. I think the drawing itself you could probably have put more time into, and the text of the title. I think how do you want that to look is something you could include in your design and think through a little bit more. Shoot the Shot Productions. Basketball going through the air. Basketball bounces. Basketball going into location and shoot. Basketball ends in spot. Pan out to see. I guess I'm not sure what we're panning out to see because it looks like it's already filled up the frame here. But maybe this one would be on just the shoot part. Yeah, that could work. I mean, I guess, yeah, shoot the shot Um, something, I don't know, it sounds slightly awkward, but and again, I think designing the text. How does the text look? Is it sort of maybe reminiscent of a storyboard in a basketball game, or think about how you might want to get that to look. Sun in the sky, sun goes down, sun sets behind hills, sun completely gone. Pan up to night sky, glow up productions, written in stars sparkling. Yeah, I mean, the concept's okay. I think that you'll want to obviously spend some more time in the design of how this is going to look. And I would say that, to have the first, I guess it depends how quickly the sun sets behind the hill, but it seems like the majority of this is spending time watching the sunset, and and then the very end we see the name, and seems like maybe too much emphasis on the sun for that. I mean, maybe it starts out near the bottom and then sets, and then we see the stars rise, rather than having it high in the sky, just to kind of get to the name a little quicker. I'm going to go with that. Fallen Star Productions. Stars show up. Stars start to move to form title. Title made of stars. Midnight Melee. Stars start to pan down from sky to town. Pan down to characters. Yeah, I mean, that could be good. I think for this first assignment, we're not going to see the actual town and actual characters because that won't all be set up and ready yet. So, I would either say, oh, you can do a stylized version of this, or kind of leave off the sort of panning down and save that part for later and just end on the Midnight Melee for now. I mean, you can have the logo directly play into the title, but it doesn't have to. Oh, I see, they all kind of connect. It's looking like glow up production, stars start breaking up to reform to make up the title of the film, Duel in the Dark, and then pan down to characters. Okay, so it's sort of a similar one to the last one. And this one is, again, beginning with Fallen Star. Tumbleweed rolls by. Dusty Duel. Tumbleweed keeps going by. Passes by fair feet, pan up. Well, a lot of these this one sort of depends a lot on the character. And I mentioned before in an earlier one that the tumbleweed is certainly doable, but a tumbleweed looks interesting in reality because it's sort of a spherical, three-dimensional looking object that spins and twists, where in After Effects you're going to tend to be doing this sort of 2D spin on it, which just it's difficult to make that look very good. But it's certainly possible. I would just avoid anything that depends on your actual character from the film because that won't be ready yet as part of this assignment. So yeah, you have a few choices there, a few limitations, but there's a lot of good concepts here, so you definitely have stuff you can work with. Next we've got Jaybird Productions. Okay, I think this is looking a little bit. I know the drawing looks a little too simple. I think you're going to want to kind of flesh that out a bit and add some detail. And when you're doing this stuff, if it get that sort of on a straight line, and it just looks a little rushed and sloppy. And I think you could do a nicer, cleaner look if you put more time into it. And that one is kind of fun in that it tells a little bit more of a story, but I'm a little concerned about how small that text will look on the screen for, representing the title. Um, you mean on this one you could have the option of the camera kind of zooming in on that and having it fill more of the screen? Maybe the worm wiggles a little bit or something. Um, yeah, and that's on a feather. Okay, so let's take a look at the storyboards. Wait a few seconds. Bird flies in. The words fade on. I would say that I'm wary of an animation of a bird flying in for this assignment, just because to make it look really good, it's going to be a lot of work. Um, so I tend to be more encouraging of kind of simpler kind of you know motion graphic kind of movement rather than character animation kind of stuff. So and also I think these could be, you could just put more time into your drawings. They look very simple. It'd be nice if they were a little bit more fleshed out and more detailed. Worm wiggles around. Bird moves in. Leans down, pulls it up. And then so indeed you do zoom in and see the title in there. So that's good. Yeah, again, I think it's sort of relying a fair amount on some character animation, both of the worm and the bird. So I think it's again, it's possible. I just think it's challenging. And, stuff in After Effects lends itself towards kind of taking drawings and kind of moving them around the screen. And this is more like you'd want to draw it frame by frame to make it look really good, which is probably more work than we have time for this assignment. Looks like the bird's flying back and forth, and the feather falls off and lands. I mean, I guess the thing about this one is that if the bird is sort of zooming through really quickly, it could just be this kind of blur across the screen with some wings flapping, and you could get away with less animation and then kind of focus on how the feather falls. So that seems a little bit more doable than the other ones. And it looks like we don't have a movie title. That is just the production company, so you'll want to add a title one as well. But yeah, just in general, I think that the two big things: put more time in your drawings and try to come up with an idea that requires less kind of full-on character animation that would require frame-by-frame animation. Okay, we've got Krivon. Hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Let me know. So, let's see. Buckaroo Studios presents. Can't really tell what we're looking at. That looks like a gun. And zoom out, and then it says something randomizer. And it says dead man. I think that you need to spend more time on this drawing because it's not coming across very clearly. See, it says Buckaroo Studios presents Dead Man as a text. But I really think you need to clean up that drawing because I can't really tell what we're looking at there. Let's take a look at the next one. Again, we have the gun. Is that a boot, maybe? And I'm not sure what this background stuff is. And then this one is similar, and it pans over to the dead man drawing. And it says randomizer text, which I don't really know what that means. That it like randomly appears letter by letter, I'm not sure. Okay, and we have basically the same scene again. Zoom in, ink, building. I can't read that well. Buckaroo Studios presents. Move down. Black flicker. Dead man, again, randomizer. So, yeah, I think, I really would like you to take another pass at these drawings. They're not very clear, and also, I think just write down more of a description, like explain what randomizer is, what that means in different words, and yeah, I mean, I think, the names you can use, the Buck Rose Studios Presents and the Dead Man, and, I think your ideas for transitions are okay, but I think you need to spend more time on the drawings and the descriptions. So please do another pass at those. So this is Kathleen. First thing I'd say, Kathleen, is in the submission, always check the submission directions because it says post JPEG images of scans of your drawing. So you did PDFs, and it's not that big of a deal. I can look at a PDF, but just kind of as a point to make for everyone, I prefer that you guys have these in the requested format. So on the first storyboard, it's a close-up of a gun with a black background scrolling down slowly, and the next box has another gun scrolling up slowly, and the next one has a sheriff's badge zooming out, and the last one has all the guns and badge in focus, and I want to animate the guns to shoot at the badge, adding dents. In the storyboard, it has the logo of a corgi, and I would animate the corgi to slowly walk for a second, and the title sequence would be a silhouette of a guy putting a cigarette up to his mouth with the title on the cigarette, following the smoke with my name, and then fades to black. Okay, let's take a look at these. So the gun's white, the background's black. We zoom down, it says gun down, filmed by Kathleen. And then they fire and put dents in there. Okay. I mean, I think the white and black seems sort of iconic. That could work for you. Yeah, maybe we'd see like a flare when they fire or something. Kind of see it light the sheriff's badge. The dents, are a little tricky to get a good looking dent that shows up well. Also, the guns are pointed at it from the side, so maybe the guns are firing from off screen, so they're kind of more pointed towards the sheriff's badge rather than sort of alongside of it. Maybe that doesn't matter that much, but something to think about. And for your gun style, make sure you're using Old West gun style. This looks like something that would have come later on in the 20th century, and not go for like a revolver. So that's the first PDF, and then the next one we've got Corgi Productions. And as I've mentioned before, I'm just concerned about stuff with character animation. I think it's going to be really challenging to get done for this assignment, so I would encourage away from that. But a simple kind of silhouette of a character and a hand moving the mouth with a cigarette can work. And the solid colors, can help make this look sort of iconic and strong. So I think there's some stuff you can work with there. But yeah, overall, I think you could use maybe a couple more ideas to play with. I think there's some challenges around these, like the corgi stuff to use and figuring out how the guns are working with the badge. I think you have a lot of good elements here. I think just maybe take another pass at how everything comes together. I think if the title is going to be on the cigarette, we're going to need to find a way to get the camera closer to it, maybe zoom in at some point. And also this feels a little out of order because usually you're going to put the film by first and then the name last. So, which is not really a problem because you could show the smoke and then you could zoom into the cigarette afterwards and show the name on there. So that's still a doable idea, but I would stay away from the corgi thing, or at least you could have Corgi Productions, but then find just another way to do that that doesn't involve animating the character walking on screen. Finally, we have Chris. Okay. Looks like a scorpion and kind of an open area in Old West Town. The outlaw comes up. Stick figure character. Yeah, I think this could use a little bit more effort and description. Remember, you'll need the name of the production company and some kind of logo for that. And and then it's a little unclear what's happening with the animation. It looks like sort of an angry stick figure. I can't tell if he's moving. I mean, clearly the scorpion seems to work his way to the side of the frame, but also I wouldn't want you to put in the position of kind of animating a scorpion with the tail and all the little legs moving. That's going to be difficult to make it look good, so I might stay away from that. So I think I like the text you chose for the outlaw. I like the idea of sort of an old West town with some open space to fit the title, so those elements are working. You might find a way to use a scorpion conceptually, but I think having him move across the screen, you know, without being able to actually animate all the limbs is just not probably going to look that good. And then I don't know what's happening with the stick figure. It's just you would need a description written out to explain, why he's there, what he's doing. So, yeah, I would take another pass at this and kind of maybe with a little more explanation of what you've got in mind. And also remember to add the logo as well, the company name logo.